morning. My name is Tori Waddell, and I'm going to be discussing sources to use about the opioid epidemic. The opioid epidemic has affected many lives today. Let's look at some sources that are reliable and another source that is not reliable. The National Public Radio, which is also known as the NPR, is a good source to use. They describe themselves as a mission-driven multimedia news organization and radio program producer. According to Media Bias Fact Check, they are left-center bias. The article that we are going to be discussing was written by Bill Chappell, who has worked for the NPR for over 14 years. Bill Chappell has written some blogs along with some news stories that were posted on the breaking news page called The Two-Way. He attended graduate school at the University of South Carolina, where he studied English literature. This shows that he has a well-developed background in writing news. In this article, he describes Narcan to be a drug used to pull drug users back from an overdose. Later in the article, he cites the National Institute of Drug Abuse, where he then attaches a link to their website. He quotes them stating that the drug is an opioid antagonist, meaning that it binds to opioid receptors and can reverse and block the effects of other opioids. Bill Chappell also wrote that opioid overdoses kill more than 140 Americans every day. Another reliable source is the New York Times, which also a Media Bias Fact Check is left-center bias. The New York Times believe themselves to be journalists who are impatient. The article that we are going to be discussing was written by Josh Katz. He obtained a master's degree from North Carolina State University in statistics. He is a graphic editor for the New York Times, where he has been in that position for 4 years. In this article, he points out that the New York Times collected most of their data. One statistic that the New York Times collected was in just 2016 itself, there were 59,000 drug deaths. Another study showed that in 2015, over 52,404 deaths were because of drug overdoses. That's a 19% difference in just 1 year. In this quote here from Katz's article, there's loaded language used. The word deadly emphasizes how toxic fentanyl and other drugs can be. A source that is not reliable is the Western Journalism, which is right bias on Media Bias Fact Check. The Western Journalism states their company is to drive positive cultural change by equipping readers the truth. They also later go on saying that they are conservative, that they publish conservative, libertarian, free market, and pro-family writers and broadcasters. The author of this article is Vivek Saxena, who on the article itself, his first name was just labeled as V. So I actually did some research and found that his name was Vivek. I couldn't find much information about him on their website, so on his Facebook page it said that he studied at Purdue University. He studied computer information systems technology, which isn't really relevant to the opioid epidemic, so I don't know why he would be writing about it. It says he also writes for other conservative websites like the Conservative Tribune. In the article, he spelled gray 2 different ways. He spelled it with an E and with an A. In this quote here, the highlighted word is loaded. It shows that many addicts will be eager to get more drugs. This is a picture of Vicodin, which is one of the most commonly used opioids. And if you know anyone who is addicted to drugs, try to get them help so we can decrease the amount of drug overdoses.
Thanks, Tori.